Alright. Think we're recording? Alright, so I'm going to show you how to make path hair. I'm not going to show you how to rig it, though. That's another task altogether. These hairs are still, they're just paths. Not much to them. They're just path hair. They're not mesh hair, so they don't have geometry that will, like, plug your system or whatever. They're a path hair. It is path hair. And I'm going to show you as a... I'm going to make a curve, and we're going to do a path. Just gonna... Gonna make that bigger so that we can see it. There we go. Now we're gonna go here. Geometry. Just going to extrude this thing in depth. Now we're gonna select those points. We're gonna hit O. Gonna hit Alt S. To do this. And we're going to make changes to it. We're gonna make that part a little bit thicker. That part a little thinner. And we're gonna do a little reshaping. If you need to, you can extrude the curve like this. But don't think that's needed. You can also make that thicker. Alt S is how you do this with curves. And now what we're going to do is we're going to give this some shape. And what we're going to do is we're going to add... Gonna add another curve, but we're going to choose a circle. I'm just gonna turn off proportional editing. It's going to... Do a little changing to the curve. Like that. Bear with me for a minute. Just making a quick little shape to show you. Like, this can be any shape you want. It does not have to be the shape that I'm making. Like, whatever shape you want to experiment with to see if it looks right. Like, it's up to you. And there we have our little shape. We're gonna hit Object. Well, we're gonna click the curve first, then we're gonna select Object. Go here, and boom. Oh, whoa. If it does that, just shrink this down till it looks right. Ta-da! And we got a hair curve. And if we're just gonna throw Roxanne's hair texture on it to show you. If we go to rendered view, change the sampling, well that, change the render engine to cycles, you can see we got this. Now I will real quickly go over what like how the hair texture is made. And since I have it on this, I can show you. So it has a texture coordinate, but it's not using generated or normal or object or camera or window or refraction or an object. It's using UV. And the UV is plugged into a mapping, which plugs into a noise texture, which is scaled. Distortion is completely down. And it is a 3D noise texture, might I add. And then a color ramp, which is used to make the color of the texture. Then hue saturation value to the brightness and contrast. Then it's mixed in with something else, and then mixed in here. And it's plugged into the base color of the principled BSDF, which is plugged into a mix shader, which is plugged into another mix shader, which is plugged into the material output. That's just base color. If you wanted just the base color, you would just ignore the mix shaders and plug it straight into material. But if you want the rest of the stuff, like these little fake ridges, you'll need to do some other stuff, but there's also an anisotropic BSDF, which the UV is also plugged into, and that's plugged into the tangent. And then the color is plugged. Oh, sorry. So then after that, the UV is plugged into the gradient texture, which is plugged into 3 different color ramps. They all use the black and white spectrum right now. And if you want this to have, like, tips like her... Let me just, so weird. Oh, I forgot she actually glows. Nice. You would, let me just actually, change this to just completely black. Like, you want to have, like, this little tip texture. It would require some fiddling around, but I managed to do it with just a little trial and error. So the first node, which is plugged into the first color ramp, which is like this, it is plugged into the factor of the last mix node before the principal BSDF. This, I'm not sure what it does, but I think it just decides, like, the mixture factor. This one is plugged into the first one before the first mix. That's plugged into the factor as well. And then this one is plugged into the multiply. But the noise is also plugged into the multiply as well. And it's also plugged into the height on the bump map. Now this is not plugged into the normal of the bump map. This is plugged into this color ramp, which is plugged into this last mix shader before the material output. I studied this model, the other Roxanne model here, specifically because I liked the hair texture. And I liked the textures that it had on it, so I wanted to know how it worked. And I find if you have a model you want to study, don't be afraid to look at the texture nodes. Like, if you don't want to edit them, don't do it, but look at them and see what is doing what. That is a good way to understand, like, how this works. Take pictures of it, practice doing it. Have a picture of things that you might need to reference later, like, whatever you need. It's all plugged in. That bump is plugged into the normal on the anisotropic. This mix is plugged into the color of the anisotropic. Like, there's a lot going on with this. And if you wanted it to glow, I mean, all you would need to do is make another mix node, add an emission, add a color gradient, color ramp, make the color the emission that you want. Just mess around and you will eventually get it. But that is a simple path hair tutorial. Just showing you something that I thought would be fun to learn. So, yeah. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's the simple path node. It's not really that complicated. Simple little path hair tutorial. And this is probably like the best way I've seen to make hair. Now, rigging it is a different chore, but we'll get to that later. Because I don't recommend converting this into a mesh unless you want to spend hours weight painting it and making sure it looks correct. I mean, if you wanted to put it into a gaming engine, then by all means go for it. But I don't recommend converting a path to a mesh because in Blender, it just adds geometry that you don't really want to have. Like, her hair is already perfect the way it is. Why convert it to a mesh and then add geometry that you don't really want? Because even though it does not have, like, geometry, it's just path, it still renders like it's geometry. But it's just a path. And you can change these to look however you want. Make them round, make them skinny, make them flat, make them look like a rope. I mean, as long as you can shape it, you can do it. Now, this thing here is used to, like, taper the nerve curves on her hair. But we don't need to get into that. That's another thing you can do, is... And I think I'll just use this to show you. But you take this and taper object, and the taper override will do that. And then you can scale this up to make it however big you want. And that's a simple path hair tutorial. Experiment, have fun, and stuff like that. Like, pretty simple. Alright.